Welcome in our series where we have visiting eminent people. We pick on their brains, so to speak, and understand their perspectives of what's happening in the world. We are really honored and privileged to have the University of Illinois Springfield team here with us. We have Dr. Debadatta, we have Chancellor Janet Gooch, and we have Dr. Ranjan Curry. I'm going to start off by asking them to share their perspectives. So, Dr. Debadatta, starting from you. We are living in a world of hyper change, and some would say nowadays the buzz is that AI is in the recursive self-improvement. So with this kind of changes which are happening, what's the message you would give to the students on how they should adapt to this world?
Well, thank you. It is wonderful to come back to Atria. I was here just 2 months ago. So to the question, I will give two responses, a two-part response. Anytime you talk about rapid change, I think about fundamentals. So we must ensure that students in universities have strong fundamentals. That is what is going to hold them in good stead as they go forward. And the second thing I will say, in this world of AI and so on and so forth, is something which I had said last time. Focus on the process of learning, not so much, not the emphasis or overemphasis on the content, right? Because the content is going to change, but the process of learning is something that we take away with us, and we ourselves in our own surroundings can learn new things and use it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Kind of ties in with Atria's philosophy of learning how to learn has to be the key skill. So, Chancellor Gooch, your perspective on how students can adapt to this change?
I think they need to learn the critical skills of critical thinking, problem solving, communication, working on teams, those skills that will stay with them no matter what the problem, no matter what the learning is. Like you say, learning to learn. That's much more important than learning facts, learning even isolated skills. It's really about how you learn together and approach problems from an interdisciplinary perspective.
Fantastic. Dr. Ranjan?
As the old age goes, change is the constant, right? We've seen change in the past, and not too far in the past, when internet came about. You know? What I used to watch in Star Trek TV is now reality, seeing visual. Now, when it comes to AI is just another technology. I think we get carried away by, oh my God, I need to learn how to use AI. I don't think that is important. How to use AI is not important. But when to use AI is important. Why should I use AI is important. Otherwise, you would be wasting a lot of your creative energies. You'll waste your intellect by focusing on every time you want to have an answer, you go to Google in the past. Now, AI is right in front of you. So you're not even trying to think how to think. So, like Deba said, fundamental skills is the main focus. If you don't have the fundamental skills, then you'll be swept away by change. You need the critical skills to question why and how you need to adapt to the change. So when people engage in the debate of, oh, should we allow AI and all that, I think these are wrong questions that we are focusing on.
Lovely. I love that point about critical thinking, which Chancellor Gooch also spoke, and this problem-solving focus. And to your point, Dr. Ranjan, that start from how am I going to use it rather than just having this tools fixation. And for all the Star Trek lovers and Lego lovers, Lego has finally launched a Star Trek series. I mean, all these years, apparently it was not there, so you can go check it out. Okay, my next question, Dr. Deba, and to each of you, kind of related to this AI thing. And there's a meta question which I want to ask. So as of now in AI spectrum, there seems to be this spectrum, and you're fairly knowledgeable, highly domain expert people who are at both ends of the spectrum. So one end of the spectrum is AI is the best thing which can happen to humanity. AGI is 2 years away. We're going to solve diseases in the next few years, if not months. And there's the other end which says this is a lot of hype. We have not even defined AGI. We'll have to go through a bust before we come to this. So one question is obviously, where do you personally and where does the university look at it in that spectrum? And the second meta question I have around it is, if there is so much noise and the noise only seems to be increasing, how should students navigate this signal to noise equation? So it's a two-part question. Dr.
Sure.
Deva.
So, look, AI, what we see today, and the fact that we are using it, we got to keep in mind that the basis, the fundamentals of the neural networks, that is 40 years old, roughly. And I was a graduate student then at Purdue, and there were classes taught by very famous professors called artificial intelligence. And I remember there was a friend of mine who is now a faculty at Penn State. He had on his office door, artificial intelligence is for real. So the point is, for any technology, if you take robotics, AI, or anything else, it really takes a long time to mature and to the point where it can really be used. Okay, so AI has come to that stage. It will more mature and so forth, but it is for real. I mean, it is here to stay, and there is no two ways about it. The way Ranjan said, we have seen these kind of changes before, most recently with the internet itself. It is here to stay, and it has improved lives in so many ways, as will AI. A few things, or a lot of things maybe, are yet to be determined, and collectively we will do that. So it's no longer hype. I don't think it was hype 40 years ago when somebody had put a poster, but it is no longer hype. The other end of the spectrum, well, look, I think universities are fully equipped, every university, including Atria, including University of Illinois Springfield. We are teaching students, we are researching, we are using, including faculty being upgrading their skills to appropriately teach AI and so forth. So I think it is something that the society in large has embraced, has accepted, and it will be something that we will live with. After some initial pain, it will become a way of life at the university and outside.
Fantastic. Chancellor, maybe the students and the signal and noise, if you could.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'll just start with, the two ends of the spectrum. I never think that the extreme is a good place to live. And somewhere in the middle is where we really need to be. And I think that you have to make sure that you're thinking about AI is not shaping your actions around AI. So be open to it, explore. It's very complex, right? So I think there is a tendency to be overwhelmed by the concept of AI and how you can use it personally in your work and your life. So for students, I think that is my advice on the sound to the noise to what did you
Signal to noise.
Signal to noise ratio. Think about it in fundamental ways. Start there, try to use it, explore, experiment, see how it can be useful to you, and then build on that. And don't use it as the answer to every problem. Think about it from what we've spoke about before. Ask why, ask how, right? How can this benefit me? And make sure that you're thinking about it from an ethical perspective as well, because that's important, particularly in the educational space.
Oh, fantastic. Dr. Ranjan, maybe from a context of entrepreneurs or budding students who want to become entrepreneurs, how should they navigate this?
Actually, I just finished writing a paper on entrepreneurs and artificial intelligence.
Oh, lovely.
The idea is this, that artificial intelligence can help and enable entrepreneurs navigate a complex institutional world. The reason why entrepreneurial aspirations are curbed is because I'm afraid that I have a good idea, but if I want to go forward with it, there are too many regulations that are out of my domain that I cannot control. But AI can perhaps make institutions more legible to people so that they can focus on their domain. I'm building a robot, I don't want to deal with the government. But perhaps AI agents can make the institutional environment more legible. In other words, they can resolve the contradictions in the institutional environment, right? So that's how entrepreneurs can benefit. So the pace of entrepreneurial actions will increase. The volume of entrepreneurial actions will increase. You'll notice that in India, where there are too many institutional contradictions, whereas in more stable institutional environments, where you know exactly what to do to get a loan, or you know what exactly you need to do to raise money, here it's not very clear. But legibility will increase with artificial. But on the other end, I would say, especially with education and students, we are at risk of creating a generation of students who will actually become artificially intelligent, which is a bad thing in my view. So we have to make sure that we use the tools so that we foster the natural intelligence, grow it, and they build AI agents and AI tools and leverage AI tools which enhance their natural intelligence. Otherwise, it's like we keep complaining, right? Kids are just watching TV, tablets. But if kids start doing AI for everything, then they stop reasoning, they stop questioning, they stop exploring. That is a risk that I am afraid of. Not to say AI should not be used, but we have to really monitor and self-govern in our families and in our colleges with our students to positively utilize AI.
Fantastic. I love the exploration theme which is coming with you. Shifting gears now to some personal works of each of you. I'm going to start again with Dr. Ranjan, yourself. One of your body of work is around servant leadership, and you are very passionate about that concept. And we seem to be living in a world where especially entrepreneurs need to be larger than life. I mean, we have seen Steve Jobs. Most of the founders have to be on stages and project a larger than life personal brand, and then they manage to get everything around for their company. How do you see servant leadership with this dominant image of founders today?
Actually, one of my highly cited papers is a very practitioner-oriented paper. If you Google it, it's called Managerial Tyranny.
Managerial tyranny.
Yeah. So essentially, I talk about the big successes that occur in the world are built by tyrants. Taj Mahal, all of this stuff. So that's the backdrop of how leaders led us in the entire world, essentially. So you have hired guns, chosen ones, different types of the ones who have halo who come and rule us, or you have the despots, which we don't want, right? But what's happening now is we are creating powerful leaders whose power is not coming from the acknowledgement of the followers. It is coming from external sources. And that is corrupt power, right? So ethical leadership essentially and servant leadership essentially commonly is misunderstood as being a nice guy, being too caring. But actually ethical leadership and servant leadership is about having an unwavering focus of the benefits of the key stakeholders, especially the key resource that is used in an organization. And the most important resource is the human resource. Now, again, it's not about raising their wages unnecessarily or anything of that sort, but having that care, having that intentionality towards people and processes is a true ethical or servant leadership. That is, I'm serving you as opposed to you being my just tool that will help my bottom line, essentially. Okay. So when you use that framework, then you can see what we used to call as tyrants, Steve Jobs. Maybe they were not. Maybe Bill Gates was not, a tyrant after all. We don't know. Maybe the basketball coach, Knight, Bobby Knight, was he a tyrant is a question, because his players loved him. until something happened, of course. So it is a complicated question. So servant leadership is often used with a big jargon, but I think all leaders should have that personal care of the team and the people that they're working for. Sorry, I can go on.
No, but we would love for you to go on. Shifting gears to Chancellor Gooch, you have been a student and you dedicated quite a bit of your learning and educating career on speech and communication, of course from a pathology part of it, but also from a really understanding this human communication. We live in a world where some people would say that the main problem we have is either lack of communication or misunderstandings in communication. And at the same time, we are also seeing environments, especially now if I look at students becoming startups, sometimes how you communicate becomes more important than what you are communicating. And I'm keeping the ethics part of it aside, but there is no doubt that communication is so important. So what would your message be to students on how they need to work on their communication? What are their values that they need to work on? If you could shed some light on that.
Certainly. I think what's most important to remember is that communication is fundamental to human nature, right? So in processing information, it's no good unless you can actually communicate it to someone else and disseminate it effectively, right? So, and communication is a two-way street. It's not just about speaking or sending a message. It's also about receiving a message. And to be exceptionally human, you have to do that with kindness and empathy, right? So my advice to students would be enter into communications honestly and openly, respect the individual that you are communicating with, and go into that communication with the strong desire to learn, right? Practice communication. It's a fundamental skill, and it's like any skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And communicate with a variety of different people, your peers, people that are above you in a job environment or in rank. Communicate with little people. There's so much to learn from communication in general. And again, the more you do it, the more you practice, the more you reflect on your skill, the better the better you will become.
Fantastic. I love the practice and reflect point. In Atria University also, at the point you made, communication is a fundamental skill. And that is something we believe also strongly, that just having an idea is not important. How you can disseminate it. But your guidelines on kindness and empathy was also very beautiful. Coming back to Dr. Devadatta, there was a project which you ran which led to a book called Educate to Innovate. And one of the messages that I caught in that is the drive to want to solve a problem is one of the key skills or maybe mindsets. And that is again something which Atria believes in, that what is that problem you want to solve and do you have the drive to solve that? My question is around this point which you mentioned, that students need to develop this trait to ask, whose life do you want to change? I found that question very, very powerful, very reflective. If you could shed some light on what's behind that question.
Sure. So this was a very interesting study I did when I was a faculty at University of Illinois Springfield, a National Academy study. And what we looked at is, because innovation is important and everyone is talking about innovation and so on and so forth, do we really know what is innovation? And distinct from other social science research, what we decided to do is to interview the innovators themselves. So we wanted to ask them to reflect back on their careers and then summarize for us what they think were the key factors. It was very interesting, and we had close to 60 people we interviewed, Nobel laureates, university presidents, Yo-Yo Ma, and so science, engineering, all of them, Tim Cook of Apple. And yes, this point you made did come up because they were saying that it was rooted in keep the curiosity alive. Have that mindset. And then in universities, to make sure that engineering programs would nurture enhance, and do everything possible to grow that, to flourish that. But I would say, as you were asking the question, I was thinking, I think we had several findings that we ended the book with sharing. But one that I feel is important for universities and for faculty and students both. One thing was to not succumb to the fear of failure. Okay? So it's everybody, each and everyone said, we are not saying that you should encourage failure. What we are saying is learn from that failure and don't be overly concerned about avoiding failure, because these are the best opportunities to learn. And if you reflect on it, as a faculty member or a student, we are always rewarding success.
It's true.
I mean, everything is around success. Nothing is around failure, acknowledgement, reflection, nothing. All the grades you get, the awards you get, the valedictorian for a faculty, the promotion, tenure, papers, awards, it's all around success. So it is very easy to fall into that mindset and say, it's all about success. If you have a failure, okay, get up and go. It's only when you will see the person gets an Academy Award, that is the time on the stage the person will say, oh my God, if you knew how many times I failed.
Correct.
But that is after the person got the award, not before that.
Correct.
So how do we, in a university setting, create that kind of an environment where students and groups will not have the fear to fail? This is not encouraging them failure, but not have the fear to fail. And then do the things, and if you fail, you learn from it. So the entire thing has to be rethought.
Fantastic.
So,
Fantastic. Thank you for the reflections. Each of this can lead to many other conversations, but we will close it for now and maybe use the opportunity next time to again have you here. We can delve deeper into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.